For me, fear comes in many different forms, and it comes in different forms at different times in your life. So I'll set a scene for you. It's 1977. Um, my brother and I are latchkey kids. That means my mom and dad work, and after school, he and I have 2 glorious hours before they come home. Um, I can think about picking the receiver up off the rotary phone, as they would call, and they would always warn, you know, uh, make sure you go ahead and do the chores, take out the trash, feed the dog, um, use your time wisely. Let's go ahead and do your studying before we get home, before the evening starts. Um, Many of you may be parents, but those of you who aren't can probably assume that we had a little bit different interpretation of how to use our time wisely. And after we had been cooped up in class all day, we just wanted to get outside a little bit and blow off a little steam. We weren't bad kids. We just, throw a football in the backyard or a baseball. Sometimes it was a little more contentious than that. There were acorn wars. You learned not to aim for the face. Um, One afternoon, the particular weapon of choice was 2 bags of Wonder Bread, and we were inside with 2 bags of Wonder Bread in our kitchen. And my brother had a distinct advantage because his was stale. Uh, didn't take long for there to be pieces of Wonder Bread all over the kitchen. And I mean, all over the kitchen. It was under a refrigerator. It was in the sink. It was on top of the stove. We'd even seen some that had gone up on top of the cabinets that we had in the kitchen. So I mean, it was pretty bad, and we needed to get that cleaned up quickly because they were going to be home soon. Um, so I now find myself standing on the countertops to reach to the top of the counters to the cabinets to get the bread off of the 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 top of the cabinets, and that's when I see it. Probably one of my earliest moments of fear was when my brother and I had to kill the spider that was at the top of those cabinets. It was literally as large as a grown person's hand. I mean, it was enormous. And we watched a lot of PBS, a lot of David Attenborough, Life on Earth. We knew that this spider was not native to North Carolina. It was somebody's tarantula or something like that had escaped. And I mean, it was really, really kind of a serious situation there for a minute. And we had to make a plan because leaving something like that, just walking away, that wasn't an option. You end up with a big spider walking across your face in the middle of the night if you don't take care of that. So the plan that these 2 young kids, me and my little brother, devised was he would get me a yardstick and I would swat it down off of the top of these kitchen cabinets, and he would be waiting there in the wings to pounce. Um, Imagine taking a yardstick and just sliding it down right beside of that big spider and waiting for it to make that jump. Somehow I managed to do that. I got the yardstick right down beside of it, and I was terrified it was going to run up the yardstick and up my arm. He was terrified I was going to throw it onto his back down there. Um, so I screwed up my courage and I swatted it down off of the cabinets, and you hear it plop on the floor. And he was on it immediately, and I was right there with him. And I have to tell you, it was awful. I mean, there was a lot of stomping and screaming and kicking and just all kinds of just chaos there for a minute. And that's when we realized that it was actually a rubber spider that we had thrown up on top of the cabinets maybe a couple of Halloweens prior. So the lesson that we took from that was sometimes if you run at your fear, they're not as big as they might seem. Um, if you run at your fear, maybe they're more afraid of you than you are of them. So now I take you from 1977, we fast forward to 2010. So you're, 33 years in the future or so. And my brother has certainly taken this lesson into account and is using it in his life. He's taught himself how to grow shiitake mushrooms. We are amused at the shiitake mushroom responses that we get. They'll go a little something like, so you take a log and you leave it in your backyard for a year, and whatever mushroom grows on it, you pick off, and you feel like that's safe to eat. That's not. So we're very amused by this because what he's done is he's run at that fear, and now he understands something. There's a way to combat that because he understands something about this thing that you should normally be afraid of. We're delivering these to our friends because we want to spread the terror around town. And my daughter's with me in this case. She's in the truck with me, and we are driving home after having delivered the mushroom log to some friends. It's been a great day. It's sunny outside. We've been with friends. We've been, my brother is hilarious. Uh, just had a good time together, and the weather is perfect. It's like when you step outside and you just feel good being outside. You know what I'm talking about? Um, Maybe 30 minutes before sunset. So it's that golden hour when everything is just wrapped in honey. I mean, it was a good time. We're riding back home after having this full day, got the windows down, and she's got a toy harmonica, little plastic harmonica, my daughter does. And she's playing it. She's taught herself how to play this one little song, and she's playing that song. And she goes, "Hey, Dad, roll the window up. You can hear me better." And I say, "Okay." So I roll the window up, and she's playing the harmonica. We're enjoying that, and the window on my side explodes in. I mean, explodes in. There's glass that you can feel ricochet back. The impact was that hard, and there's some fishtailing and trying to stay in your lane. And I look over, and there's no car that's hit us. So I look over to where my daughter is, and she's maybe 9 at this point. So she's maybe the same age that I was when my brother and I had the rubber spider incident. I look over, and she's kind of curled up a little bit, and she is breathing weird. It's like she's just it's not right. And I'm like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And she's like, "I'm okay. Are you hurt?" She goes, "I'm okay. I'm not hurt. I'm just really scared." I was like, "Okay, if you're not hurt, we're going to be okay. Let's just pull over and we'll figure out what happened. You'll be all right." She's like, "I'm trying." Um, so we pull over, and a couple that had passed by us has stopped, and they've pulled ahead of us. And the gentleman gets out of the car and walks down towards where we are now, and tells us, just wants to check in with us, wants to see if we're okay. They saw there was a child in the car, and you know, we trade numbers just in case. He said, "If you need anything, just let us know." And I asked him, I said, "Did you see what hit us?" I mean, at this point, I didn't know if someone had thrown something through our window. Uh, my daughter thought that perhaps we'd been shot at, and there was just no way to really tell. And he goes, "You don't know, do you?" I said, "No, I mean, we didn't see what hit us." And he said, "So a deer was running across the street, and there were oncoming cars, and he ran right to where those oncoming cars were and made a really sharp U-turn and ran just full steam into the side of your truck." And he said it was bad. He goes, "The deer got up and ran off into the woods, poor thing, but," he goes, "man, he ran right into the side of your truck." So, we traded numbers now, and I thank him. Uh, I get out of the car and go around to where my daughter is. I told her not to move, let me help her get out, and open the door on her side. And she is covered in glass, right? Those little square safety glass chips that come out when windows break like that. I mean, they're just all in her lap. They're in her hair. So I lift her up and put her on the gravel, and we kind of brush her off a little bit. I'm brushing myself off, and you recognize just how much you could have lost in just that quick second, right? If it wouldn't have been for a little kid saying, "Hey, roll up the window, Dad." I mean, that was all it took to deflect the horns just enough to keep them from coming into the cab with us. And, we're waiting for the police to show up. And that's when I hear, "I'm bleeding, Daddy." And um, I turn to her and I say, "What? Where?" And she recognizes the fear on my face at that point, and she kind of lifts her arm up really quick and goes, "It's right here." And she had maybe a tip of a toothpick size splinter in her forearm, and she pulls it out and she can stop the bleeding. So we've gone through now all of that fear, uh, all again. So now it's 2020. Um, there's a lot of different things to fear now, certainly, as you're hearing and as you know. And I think about the comparison between those two incidents, as a child, as an adult. And in some ways, I think about fear realistically being a gift, which is something that helps you manage threats. It's something that gives you some sense of foreshadowing. I was talking to my parents about that. My dad said, "Yeah, fear is also a little bit like pain, because a little bit of it isn't such a bad thing. You step on a bee's nest or something, and that first sting lets you know something's going on that you should probably do something about. But a lot of it can be devastating." Um, as a child experiencing fear, um, I think about that and think about how, in some cases, fear, or at least in my case, fear can come for a visit in some ways. Doesn't always stay, but as you grow older and as you have more to lose, it can linger, and it can become one of those constant companions that you have to manage or deal with. So the lesson that I've taken from comparing those two things is there are going to be times where you just can't run at it, right? You just can't face down your daughter possibly bleeding to death on gravel. I mean, there's nothing that you're going to stop there, and that's going to be with you. So as you look at it as an adult, I think something is important about that childhood view, the innocent childhood view in a lot of ways, about running at a fear that you can control, to recognize when it's a rubber spider and to not give that small fear the ability to grow. Don't give it the energy or the power to get bigger than it deserves to be. So that's my story. I appreciate you. I dedicate that to Brian, my brother, and Olivia, my daughter. Thank you.